Welcome back to our channel, and thank you all for tuning in and thank you all for supporting us. And we shall continue to bring you the latest news as they come. But if you are new to our channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please encourage us by doing so. My brothers and my sisters, a Biafran Catholic priest who was abducted, kidnapped by the Nigerian army at Iguacha in Rivers State, and then shipped to a prison in Kano, where lots of missing Biafrans are still being held as either IPOB or Eastern Security Operative suspects. They just pick them from the road. A lot of families have, been looking for their loved ones. They just pick them from the road. According to the Catholic priest, he said that he was lucky to have escaped from the dungeons of the Janjaweed Nigerian military, where they were held hostage, because God wanted to use him for greater works. That was his statement. He said because God loves him, and that was how he escaped. The Catholic priest, who did not want his name mentioned because of safety of his life, since the Hausa army who let him escape, because the priest prayed for the Hausa soldier's sick daughter and she became well again. That was a saving grace. Not a lot of people go into those dungeons and live to tell the story. They don't. And the Hausa army that let him escape told the Catholic priest, the Biafran Catholic priest, not to disclose his name because he had been declared dead. That is, the Hausa soldier will lie to his commander that he has been killed. So if he goes and tell his name and disclose his name, because they have his records with them, then the Hausa soldier and the Catholic priest will be fished out by these Fulani commanders, and they will all skin them alive. That was what the Hausa soldier told the Catholic priest, that they will kill them. According to the Catholic priest, his ordeal started when he was traveling from Ogoni to Iguacha for a missionary work. And that fateful day, some unknown gunmen sent some officers, police officers, to judgment. And the Nigerian military, were called in. They were called in from the 6th Division, Iguacha, and they were just arresting, kidnapping people on the road. And that was when he was abducted. He was kidnapped with some other Biafrans. And they took them to their barracks at the 6th Division, Iguacha. Then, that same night, they were all shipped to Kano, and they were handed to some group made up of army and Fulani Janjaweed bandits. You see that they are collaborating. They handed them over to army and Fulani bandits, working together. The priest said he suspects those Fulanis to be bandits, because they were dressed like the bandits you usually see on newspapers and on TV. The priest said that they were locked up, at a dungeon inside the barracks, being controlled by the soldiers and the bandits. The priest also told us that he was in the dungeon for 3 days, 3 whole days, without food and water. They refused to give them food and water. They refused. And each day, the number of those kidnapped that were kept in the dungeon kept declining. It kept reducing. That means they will take one today and that person won't come back. He said until one day, on the third day, one of the Hausa soldiers, challenged him and said, because you say you are a Catholic priest, you are a man of God, can you pray for my sick daughter that if she gets well, then I will release you. I will do everything to release you. The Catholic priest said that. He quickly prayed, and the next day, the Hausa soldier had to release him because his daughter got well. And he said he had to smuggle him out of the dungeon and said he was going to kill him. And that was how the Fulani bandits allowed him to take the Catholic priest out of the dungeon. After the priest escaped, he went to Sabongeri in Kano to meet an old friend who is from the middle belt of Nigeria. He's a middle belter and resides in Kano there. And his middle belt friend offered to take him on a ride back to Lagos, where the Catholic priest resides. The Catholic priest said he thought everything was over because he thought his ordeal was over. According to the Catholic priest, along the Lagos-Benin expressway, it was a harrowing and truly testing moment that awakened, his spirit inside. That was when his trouble started, the main trouble. Initially, they thought that a sharp noise they heard was just a pebble propelled loudly from one side of their tires along the highway. He said the windscreen of the car that belonged to his middle belt friend, was shattered by bullets. It was shattered by bullets. Then that passed by his side, passed by the side of the Catholic priest, fired by two Fulani bandits hiding in the roadside bushes directly in front of their car. That was what happened. Directly in front of their car. That was what happened. The windscreen shattered. According to the priest, it was one of the toughest decisions he has ever made in his life to go on a road trip like that. He said he didn't know what to do, but he was afraid. And he thought that was it. That was the end. But he said that he never expected that he will be on the receiving end of violence, gunfire, because he has traveled on that route many times. He has traveled on it many times. He said, although the first volley of bullets he had, he knew that the Fulani bandits' intention was to kill them, was to kill him and his friend. So the next thing they did was, it was a harrowing experience for them. They were afraid, but they took, a cover under the dashboard of the car as they slammed on the car's throttle, because his friend was driving. So the friend slammed on the car throttle, and the Fulani bandits, they all ran into the bush. But they kept shooting. They kept shooting, and that was when the bullet hit him and his friend in the car. For him, the bullet hit his stomach, and for his friend, it hit his arm and his thigh. And to their amazement, less than 50 meters away, not miles, meters, less than 50 meters away, he said there was a military checkpoint filled with soldiers. And that was when they realized that the Fulani bandits and the military are working together. They are working together. They are 5 and 6. They work together. You know? And while the Fulani bandits were shooting his car, the car they were on, rounds of bullets were lodged in front of the tire and around the engine. It was, it was sporadic shooting, according to him. And he said there was no way you can have that amount of bullet without being hit. And he said God really protected them. He protected them because he was surprised that both himself and his Middle Beltane friend were only hit twice. Him on the stomach and his friend on his thigh and on his arm. But they didn't stop. He said because if they had stopped, it would have been suicidal. They didn't stop, and the military checkpoint, they tried to stop them, but they kept speeding up. They kept pushing the car forward. They kept pushing it until they got to Ore. And they held on to their wounds to prevent the flowing of blood. They don't want, so that they won't lose a lot of blood. They held on to it until they got to Ore and got to a chemist, a pharmaceutical shop, where they got some stitches and bandages that was used to stop the bleedings. So on their way out of Ore, they also met a Yoruba guy who is about 35 to 40 years old, according to the Catholic priest. And he said, while they were on the highway, they saw this Yoruba boy or man. They saw him in a pool of his blood. He was waving them down for help. And they had to stop and pick the wounded Yoruba guy up. They picked him up, who now narrated the story to the priest and said, that he was macheted by some Fulani herdsmen carrying cattle from one end of the bush across the highway, that he was changing the tires of his vehicle while the Fulani herdsmen were approaching him. So he never, envisaged any danger until they got close to him. And when they got close to him, they brought out their machete and started cutting him. The Yoruba guy said he escaped because he pretended to be dead. Because the way they slashed him with their machete, no one would have survived it. The Yoruba guy said that he has been waving down cars for help for more than an hour, but everyone were afraid to help until the priest and his friend came to his rescue. My brothers and my sisters, you can see how evil these Fulani herdsmen, their bandits, and the Nigerian military are. The military are the one aiding the Janjaweed Fulani terrorists to maim peaceful Biafrans. That is how the military are abducting, kidnapping Biafrans and shipping them to the north to be massacred and their organs harvested. The Catholic priest and his friend and the Yoruba guy only escaped because God was the one helping them. Imagine how many were unlucky like these guys. Thank you for watching my video. Please watch out for the next, and thank you for supporting our channel. Bye bye for now.